Good evening, everyone, and welcome to everyone joining us online. Good morning, good afternoon, and especially good night to those people joining us from London. It's a real pleasure to have the last session of the day. I know it's been a long day for everyone here, but we are delighted to be joined by a very esteemed panel of participants this evening who have promised us both joy and justice. So we're looking forward to a great session this evening, after which there'll be plenty of time for chat and celebration, I'm sure. I won't ask the panellists to introduce themselves now, but rather when they speak, because we are keeping to time. But I have the absolute pleasure of beginning this evening. My name is Victoria Austin. I am the co-founder and chief exec of Global Disability Innovation Hub. We're based at UCL in London. And rather poignantly, it is exactly 5 years to the day since I sat here in the UN and we held one of the first side meetings that kick-started the redoubled effort globally on access to assistive technology back in 2018. Some of the people on this panel will remember that session. I was busy finishing a report which set the tone for what would come in AT 2030, while also trying to participate in the debate. And I couldn't be prouder of what we've achieved ever since, in service of course, the billions of people that need access to assistive technology around the world. As my own research has showed, AT can offer not only access to education or work or participation in a community, but also recognition and respect. And as I sit here today, I'm equally proud of what we've achieved that's worked. As the title of the event might imply, I am in we being able to test what hasn't worked and to share that with you here today. As always, our funder has been permissive in allowing us to trial and test, and that's been really important in our journey. I'll talk to you a little bit more later, but first it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker this evening. Minister Pursglove is Minister of State in the United Kingdom. He is Minister at the Department for Work and Pensions with responsibility for disability and has been since October 2022. He has previously been at both the Home Office and the Ministry of Justice, and I'm very pleased to tell you represents a constituency in the Midlands in England, which is where I'm from, so that's very good news indeed, and went to university in East London. So without further ado, over to you, Minister Pursglove.
Well, thank you. It is a real privilege to be here with you this evening. And as you say, I am also a proud person of the Midlands, yes. But who was also university educated in East London. So we actually have quite a lot in common. And it's fair to say that when we first met, it was in the very early stages of me taking on this role. And at that stage in the journey, it all felt very overwhelming, as it always does when you take on a new ministerial role, and you're always very cognizant of the learning journey that you're about to get on. But the work that you are doing and the team are doing is inspirational and leading edge, and the impact that you all made on me in those first early days in the role lives with me now. And so it was a real privilege to be asked to come and speak at this event this evening, and it's an honour for me on behalf of the United Kingdom Government to join all of you at the 16th session of the Conference of State Parties, or COSP, with countries that are signatories to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the UNCRPD. I'm proud that the United Kingdom signed the UNCRPD in March 2007, ratifying in June 2009, and the UK government were among the first to do this. And our commitment to disability is unwavering. Demonstrating this, the UK government co-hosted the first Global Disability Summit in 2018 with the government of Kenya. This has become a regular fixture, with a summit in 2022 hosted by Norway and Ghana, and coming up in 2025 hosted by Germany and Jordan. The UK is proud to have hosted one of the most accessible Paralympic Games ever, if not the most accessible Games ever, in London in 2012. Colleagues in Japan, unfortunately, had plans thwarted by COVID, and we look forward to seeing what our neighbours in Paris will do in 2024. And it's fair to say that we hope that we will be outdone. And I had a meeting earlier today, a bilateral meeting with my opposite number in the French government, and we were able to send that very message to them, that our real hope as a UK government that they will go above and beyond what we were able to achieve in 2012, because we want to see that legacy built upon, and we want to see more and more inclusive and more accessible Paralympic Games, inspiring greater participation and inspiring greater opportunity in the years to come. And an important legacy of the London 2012 Games was the establishment of the Global Disability Innovation Hub, or GDI Hub, our host for this evening. They formed to continue the good work and innovative thinking that made 2012 the success that it was. And as you know, I recently opened GDI Hub's new lab in East London on the site of the 2012 Paralympic Games. And it was wonderful to see students, researchers, staff and programme partners come together from around the world, working on new inclusive technologies with the potential to change the lives of millions of people with disabilities, and also, of course, older people too. This year, the UK government will consult on and launch a disability action plan, which will include actions to raise the profile of assistive technology, or ATEC. We want to make the most of the UK being the most accessible place in the world to live and work with technology. The Global Disability Innovation Hub undertook a country capacity assessment using an assessment tool on behalf of the government. This was developed through the UK-funded AT 2030 programme for low and middle income countries. These assessments provide an overview of the national ATEC landscape. And we recently used this same approach to get a clearer picture of the ATEC landscape in the UK. And I'm pleased to announce that these findings have now been published. We continue to strive to improve and do better to get ATEC to those in the UK that need it most. Back in 2018, at the first Global Disability Summit, our government were pleased to announce our investment into 2 nascent assistive technology programmes. The UK was one of the founding partners of ATEC Scale, the Global Partnership for Assistive Technology. And we'll soon hear from Pascal Bejervel, the CEO of ATEC Scale, and I apologise if my pronunciation has been somewhat off there. We also launched a new AT 2030 programme led by the GDI Hub to develop, test and deliver proven models of what works to improve access to affordable ATEC for people that need it around the world. We know that as a global ageing population, the need for ATEC is growing, and so must our efforts. If we're lucky enough to grow old, all of us will need ATEC at some point in our lifetimes. For many people, a lack of access to ATEC drastically reduces their ability to work, to go to school and be active members of the community. In many low and middle income countries, ATEC access is as low as 3% of those who need it, and this is just simply not good enough. It's well understood that we can't deliver the Sustainable Development Goal commitments without providing access to ATEC. And this is why, and I like delivering good news, I'm delighted to announce today that the UK is investing a further £31 million into the AT 2030 programme. This takes our total investment in the programme to £51 million, all of which will be match funded by AT 2030's partners through investment from the private sector and governments, and contributions in cash in kind. And I'd just like to place on record my thanks to ministers across government for their commitment alongside me in my role as Minister for Disabled People in allowing us to make this important announcement today, and for all of our officials who've worked with us as ministers to help deliver that. I know it will make a massive difference. This investment will redouble our efforts on inclusive innovation and ATEC access as we approach the last 6 years of the Sustainable Development Goals. We'll double down on what works, and that means a strong, bold commitment to build the nascent ATEC innovation ecosystem and provide insights to enable ATEC markets to open up. This funding will leverage government and private sector investment to sustainably improve access to ATEC around the world, particularly for people that need it the most in low and middle income countries. I'm proud to say that the UK, through the AT 2030 programme run by GDI Hub, is at the forefront of ATEC's innovation. I wish you, the GDI Hub and all AT 2030's partners, a huge success in moving forward with this vitally important work and the next stages and the next steps that you take to deliver on these really important goals. And again, thank you so much for hosting me this evening. Thank you and good luck.
Though I knew it was coming, I'm not sure how to follow that. I think I'll probably just follow that by saying, as a great colleague and friend of some of us, Judy Heumann famously once said, disability is only a tragedy when society fails to provide the things that we need to live barrier-free lives, like job opportunities and barrier-free buildings. And I'll take the liberty to add, and assistive technology, because I think Judy would want any action that involved campaigning for more disability-inclusive world. And thank you very much for that commitment that you've made today. It will make a big difference. I'll move on, because we did promise that we were going to tell you what works and what doesn't work, and we are going to do that. So 5 years ago, Kylie and team at WHO were involved in ensuring that there was a World Health resolution on access to assistive technology. That means that every single government committed to ensuring that people would have access to the assistive technology they needed in time. But since then, just 3 years ago, we've seen the COVID pandemic. And it's exacerbated the need for assistive technology while reducing the opportunities for people to access assistive tech, and has had a far greater impact on assistive technology users. And it's only a year since the launch of the World Report, which I'm sure, again, Kylie will mention, which we were able to contribute quite a lot of evidence to as a result of the UK aid investment that we received. And that set out our global priorities for access to assistive technology. So now we can't say we don't know what to do. We can't say we're not signed up, and we are ready to take action. But it's probably only a few minutes since someone did actually die from lack of access to assistive technology in some place around the world. So while it might be an opportunity today to see how far we've come, I really also want to share the urgency and need to continue working faster and harder on this collective mission. The challenge really is real, and the work is hard, but the mission is really very simple. Dignity, human rights, participation and justice for all, life-changing assistive technology for everybody. So while we can celebrate what's been achieved, I'm here to say this is only the beginning. And as any minister in any government or any innovator or any community leader will tell you, we aren't there yet. And so this investment makes a big difference to the work that we're trying to do. A lot has been done, a lot has been learnt, but there is a lot left to do. So what have we done? We've reached 29 million people with more than 70 partners. GDI Hub only leads this partnership. The delivery is really a shared effort with everyone sitting on the stage and many, many more people. We've developed case studies, strategic tools, life stories, together with Pascal, product narratives, together with Kylie, product specifications and procurement guides, together with UNICEF, access to more products in the UNICEF catalogue. We've helped scale 9 innovative service delivery models, 11 new technologies are on track to scale, 31 HE ventures have been supported by Bernard and team. And so we have done a lot. And I can't thank the partners enough, not just those in the room, but everyone watching or catching up online. This has been a real group effort. But we've learned some things along the way. This is what we've learned has worked. Disruptive partnerships with new actors that aren't the usual people doing the same things in the same ways. Tools that have been there to strengthen governments in their action on assistive technology. Cities have actually been at the forefront of taking action, particularly those cities that are undergoing a great deal of development. The opportunity there is to build in success from the start. And data and evidence have been more foundational to impact than even I, as an academic, believe them to be. Really is fueling people's decision-making and policy choices. And, as Pascal might mention, and as certainly our friends at Google will tell you, mobile phones as assistive technology will change lives, and fast. Market shaping has huge potential here, but we've learned that it's going to take longer and it's going to take more precision, and we must enable markets before we try and shape them. And we also know that some assistive tech will never scale, and people still need it. It's still important to get it to people. The investment in local production and repair do matter. Giving people products that they can't repair locally is not a sustainable solution, but we also need large-scale procurement initiatives and investment. We also know that investment in innovation is going to take time. I'm going to share what doesn't work now. We know that devices alone cannot ensure wider inclusion without a sensible way to ensure and incentivize impact. Service delivery models can't remain the same. We need to harness new digital manufacturing techniques, such as those being used around prosthetics, to help shorten these supply chains. Academic papers without practical insights, however fun they are to write, are not that useful in shaping the decisions that ministers and governments make. And work that doesn't centre the perspective of the user is less good and less impactful than work that centres the perspective of the user. Some of these things are not rocket science. Fiscal and regulatory barriers are still a huge problem. We're still charging export taxes and import taxes on assistive technology products. And the regulations are different in every single country. So using our soft power to have the opportunity to change some of that is something governments can start to take notice of. And we're equipped now to provide some of that technical assistance. And so thinking today, this week, this month, in this place, we know more than we ever have about access to assistive technology, and partners will share more too. We know what the barriers are, and we know what the impact can be. Beyond the reports of work done well, beyond the theoretical propositions, beyond the platitudes, our task is both harder and also more simple than it ever has been. Our task is to get together and do the real work, to share brave stories of what we got wrong and what didn't work, and how we can all learn from this, to do this in spite of our pride and our organisational prowess, and to do it because we are all here in service of a fairer world. If successful, the next 5 years of the AT journey will be marked not by people like me saying how great my organisation or anybody else is, but by the numbers of people who are starting to take their rightful place in the world through access to assistive technology. This will not be measured easily, but it will be felt. Perhaps not at first in this building, but on the streets of Sarajevo and Sena and Santiago, in the villages of Varanasi and Vienna and Vancouver, in the communities of Caracas and Cairo and Cape Town. The invisible ones will start to be visible. The quiet ones will start to be heard. The excluded ones will take their rightful places in our schools, in our marketplaces, in our workplaces, on our sports fields, in our cities, in our boardrooms, in our parliaments. We will hear the unheard, we will see the unseen, we will feel the revolution of participation, if we get this right. With grateful thanks to everyone involved, both here and at home, in everything we got right, and especially everything we got wrong. A lot done, a lot learnt, a lot to do. Let's do it. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce co-host for the evening, colleague and friend Kylie Shea, head of the team at the WHO.
Thank you very much, Vicky. It's always difficult to follow you. As said, I'm Kylie Shea. I'm the team lead for Access to Assistive Technology, WHO, based in Geneva. Minister, fellow speakers, friends and colleagues, it really is an honour to represent WHO at this important event alongside COSP16 and here at the UN. But I would like to start by putting us all on the same page regarding what we mean by assistive technology, or AT Tech, as we've just heard it called by the Minister. You will hear within dialogue on this topic different words used to describe what at WHO we define in just two terms. Firstly, we talk about assistive products. Those are the devices that are used to assist any person's functioning and independence in response to some limitation. Examples are simple products such as walking aids, reading glasses, hearing aids, transfer boards, to more complex products such as wheelchairs with posture support or prosthetics. They also include digital products, including software such as that used for screen reading, electronic communication devices, and a mobile phone. Assistive technology, on the other hand, we use at WHO as an umbrella term to encompass the entire ecosystem of supports and services that ensure consistent and ongoing access to assistive products to those who need them. The breadth of this ecosystem can be summarised in the WHO GATE 5P framework for strengthening access to assistive technology, with the 5 Ps standing for people at the centre, as has already been emphasised, a supportive policy environment which picks up on some of the points regarding tax and many other areas of policy, quality, affordable products, provision systems and available and trained personnel. Tonight, you will hear of innovative work supported through the UK-funded AT 2030 programme, all of which can be encapsulated within this 5P framework for action. And now, I would like to share with you just a little of the global context in relation to access to assistive technology. Now, Vicky's already mentioned that in 2018, the World Health Assembly member states, led by Pakistan, adopted the first resolution on improving access to assistive technology, noting, assistive technology enables and promotes the inclusion, participation and engagement of persons with disabilities, ageing populations and people with long-term health conditions in family, community and all areas of society, including political, economic and social spheres. This milestone resolution urged countries to take specific actions to improve access to assistive technology and also requested action from the World Health Organization, including to prepare a global report on the status of assistive technology. Together with UNICEF, WHO prepared the first global report on assistive technology, and as mentioned, that was launched just over a year ago. Now, to prepare the report, WHO worked alongside partners across the globe to gather the latest data, scientific evidence, and international experience. And a major component of the data collection was the implementation of a household survey capturing the voices of over 320,000 people in 35 countries who were asked to self-report their assistive technology needs, unmet need, and experience of accessing or attempting to access the assistive products they may need. And the final result, as articulated in the global report, is very clear. The extent of the need for assistive technology is higher than previously estimated, with at least 2.5 billion people in need today. Now that's 1 in 3 of us. Further, based on these figures and taking into account changing global demographics, we expect to see this figure grow to 3.5 billion by 2050. So as Vicky has said, this is an urgent need that we need to respond to. And then more alarmingly, the report revealed those statistics you've already heard tonight, that we are underprepared globally to meet the demand. There is a vast inequity of access to assistive technology between high and low-income countries, from 90% of people having access in wealthier countries to less than 3% in poorer countries. And in addition, progress indicators from 70 countries highlighted relatively limited work on policy and major weaknesses in assistive technology provision systems and the workforce. And yet, you've already heard it tonight, assistive technology changes people's lives. The right product at the right time improves a person's health and well-being and ensures that they can be included rather than excluded in education, work, social and civil life. Now, for many children and adults with disabilities, assistive technology is an integral part of their life, and it's often recognised as a precondition for realisation of rights. Many people with disabilities use multiple assistive products, and these products change through their lives as their lives evolve, and it helps them to meet new goals and to fulfil different life roles in different contexts. So availability of appropriate products along with ongoing service support is critical. But we also need to take note that assistive technology plays a vital role in the lives of many others. For example, access to assistive technology can enable healthy ageing, maximising an older person's quality of life, independence and dignity. In fact, the global report on assistive technology showed us that the greatest need statistically for assistive products is within the older population, with 1 in 2 people over the age of 65 requiring at least one assistive product. And as people age further, the number of assistive products they use increases. So this understanding of the widespread use of assistive technology across the population provides us with a strong advocacy platform for improving access. Essentially, we can apply the curb cut effect. By improving access for one or other group, we can improve access for all. Fortunately, the global report doesn't stop at presenting the need and the status of access. It also offers 10 action-oriented recommendations for all stakeholders, with most of these aligned, as you would expect, with the 5P framework. There are also a number of cross-cutting recommendations, with one of these being the importance of international collaboration and sharing, with the announcement tonight being very welcome of the support from the United Kingdom and an example of the important contributions that wealthier countries can make in supporting other member states in meeting the scale of the need. Now, in furthering our actions, WHO is proud to have a strong partnership with the Global Disability Innovation Hub, the first WHO collaborating centre on assistive technology. We're also pleased that through this partnership we've been supported by and also able to contribute to the achievements of the AT 2030 programme. WHO plays a lead role in supporting member states in integrating assistive technology provision into health systems and specifically universal health coverage through the development of evidence-based guidance documents and direct technical support through our regional and country offices. Our work has included the development of the data tools used to measure access and unmet need, and we support countries to establish priority assistive product lists and also to integrate procurement of prioritised products within national universal healthcare programming. And a flagship project, which was supported by AT 2030, the development of a new approach to building the capacity of the health workforce through an online training platform called TAP, or Training in Assisted Products, targeting the frontline health workers in community and primary health settings in low and middle income countries. To give you a very brief snapshot of what this looks like in implementation from just one country, in Tanzania, we're working with the Ministry of Health to integrate the provision of a selected range of relatively simple yet impactful products into the package of interventions provided through primary health care. Beginning with a pilot in one county, WHO supported the ministry in the procurement of quality, affordable assistive products such as reading glasses, pill organisers, walking aids and continence products. On arrival, these products were listed in the Ministry of Health pharmaceutical inventory and dispatched through the Ministry of Health internal systems following the same logistic and stock management pathway as other essential health products to all primary health centres in the county. The primary health centre personnel were all trained to provide these products using the online platform TAP with follow-up mentoring and skills practice provided by national personnel supported remotely by our teams. This is just one example of many where guidance documents and tools, innovation, partnership and collaboration, all strengths of the AT 2030 programme, combine to facilitate strengthening of health systems to meet the demand, with particular emphasis on ensuring assistive technology is accessible as close to where people live as possible. And so now, given that we're here at the UN, I'd like to close with a quote from UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed's address during the launch of the Global Report on Assistive Technology. She said, "We have 8 years to make the Sustainable Development Goals a reality. International cooperation is essential to achieve universal access to assistive technology. Universal access reduces gender inequalities, strengthens communities, and supports sustainable growth with a high social and economic return on investment." In her speech, she called on all countries and leaders everywhere to take ownership of designing, developing, and delivering assistive technology for every person in need. So together, let's ensure that we build a world of dignity, solidarity, and opportunity for all. Thank you very much.
Hello, I just want to say hi, and I know most of you would want to be resting or drinking, but I'm hoping that we can make this a fun time. So I am here as your host, and I just want to sort of introduce myself. My name is Jonathan Kaufman. I have little brown hair, and I'm wearing, I guess, a jacket, and have glasses. And so what am I doing here? I'm listening to a lot of information about accessible technology and AT. And I'm a social scientist, so I'm sort of looking at this from a different perspective. I sort of want to backtrack and, Kylie had a wonderful quote. So I'm going to be more sort of a lowbrow approach to this and start with a wonderful quote by a very famous philosopher by the name of Groucho Marx. Groucho said this. Guy walks into a psychiatrist's office, says, "Doc, my brother thinks he's a chicken." Psychiatrist says to him, "So why don't you turn him in? Why don't you commit him?" The guy looks at him and he said, "I would, but I need the eggs." And the important thing for this, I know, stay with me for a moment. We need the eggs because we need the relationship of people with disabilities when it comes to adaptive technology and assistive technology. The things that I look at the intersection of business, disability, innovation, and culture. That is the world I inhabit. And when I listen to the wonderful projects that are happening here, what comes to me is, what are the relationships like? How do we think about not only access to adaptive technology, but how it's designed, how it's disseminated? And it is incredibly important. And as someone with, I have a right hemiparesis, a form of cerebral palsy, who's understood what it means every day to need assistive technology to function. I need to know that I'm a player, that I am a key stakeholder in this process. So it is very important when I hear this that one of the key elements in all of this is the idea of being able to communicate what is needed. This is a two-way street. This is not a top-down approach. This is a back-and-forth dialogue. And one of the things that needs to happen, because it depends upon where we are regionally, it depends upon what needs are, it's exceedingly important when we continue to talk about assistive technology is who's at the table, how we are communicating what our needs are, and what the values are. Just as important in that is when we think about access to assistive technology, it's also about the relationships between business, government, and the end users. Those three elements are critically important. And the other piece in terms of this business is capital, flow of capital. If there is no flow of capital, ultimately, there isn't the value of the young entrepreneur that is in some region of the United States or some part of Southeast Asia who is creating something new. The potential to dream, the potential for the possibility. For me, if there's any word I want you to remember, two words actually, from my lips, is relationships and possibility. And ultimately, what assistive technology and adaptive technology, however way you want to describe it, it's that vision will propel us forward, along with the operational side, which I'm sure each of you've begun to talk about, but we have some wonderful speakers, so I will sort of allow myself to pass the baton to Anna, if you would be so kind to speak.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. Hi there, everyone. My name is Anna Landre. I'm a research fellow and a PhD candidate at the Global Disability Innovation Hub, or as we call it, GDI Hub. I'll briefly be speaking with you about the importance of organizations of people with disabilities, or OPDs, also sometimes known as DPOs, but given that we're here at the UN, the language is OPDs. And I want to say to you, Jonathan, I think in your little trio of people we have to involve, we have to put OPDs in there because that is part of the what works of delivering AT. So first, some background. As many of us know, OPDs are the backbone of disability movements everywhere. They subvert historical patterns of non-disabled leadership on disability issues, empowering people with disabilities ourselves, rather than just medical professionals or family members or non-disabled policymakers to decide the direction of our rights and our movements. But not only that, OPDs across the world deliver an array of critical services to our communities, from accessible transport programs, inclusive social spaces, and yes, assistive technology. And OPDs are particularly important in ensuring access to AT for a few reasons. First, because they understand the broad array of needs and uses of assistive products, often far beyond what doctors and other medical personnel, or even engineers and innovators do. For instance, I'm a wheelchair user, but my doctors and therapists, or often even the innovators I work with at GDI Hub, have never been able to tell me what innovative gadgets are readily available on the market to help me do daily tasks like cooking or playing fetch with my family's dog. Instead, I find out those tips and tricks from other disabled people. And now I go around spreading the good word about those assistive products too. So without the participation of OPDs, we'll always be missing many pieces of the puzzle when it comes to AT, and I want to stress that. Second, centering OPDs in the mission for AT is critical because, believe it or not, AT is not an end in and of itself. As part of the AT 2030 agenda, one of our focuses is on looking at what access to AT truly enables, rather than seeing delivery as the end of the story. For instance, there's little freedom in having a capable wheelchair like mine when you open the door to your home and are greeted by impassable pavement or sidewalks, or in being given an assistive communication device when no one wants to hear what you have to say. AT truly becomes liberating in an environment that is also inclusive, and we all know that OPDs do the groundwork of making that possible. They have the capability to imagine, co-design, and co-deliver the best arrangement of, say, tactile pavement, so blind and visually impaired community members can make real use of their white canes, or the adaptive sports program, so local kids can use their new sports wheelchairs. And third, OPDs are often those who respond and fill the gaps when others do not. One of the common topics covered at this year's COSP, for instance, is emergency and crisis situations. And I myself supported Ukrainian OPD Fight for Right to deliver assistive technology, among other aid and many evacuations, to the people with disabilities left behind in the mainstream humanitarian response. Without OPDs, in particular this OPD, Fight for Right, more than 12,000 people we assisted might never have been helped. And all of these are reasons why, as part of the AT 2030 program, GDI Hub has invested in OPDs, like the International Disability Alliance, to recruit AT Fellows. And these, as we call them, AT Fellows, will represent different geographic areas in order to build capacity and connections between the OPD sector and AT work happening globally. We want to strengthen the role of OPDs in the policy and delivery debate happening about AT, because without them, again, we'll be missing many parts of the puzzle. And in addition to talking about what we have done and are doing with respect to OPD involvement in the mission for AT, I want to talk about what we will do. Part of my PhD at GDI Hub is studying how OPDs work, network, and collaborate to further the movement. And we all know that some of the most path-breaking advances in disability rights have come when we work together across borders. And because of that, I hope to speak with OPDs from around the world, many of whom are at COSP this week, to gather information about and eventually co-create a living global OPD map and knowledge-sharing platform. This will provide OPDs a streamlined way to find one another, learn from one another, and push forward initiatives that change the lives of people with disabilities, including AT delivery. We at GDI Hub hope this project will go beyond a mere PhD dissertation and project and become a living, ever-growing and changing tool that can support OPDs in their work and those of us looking to support it for AT access and beyond. So thank you for having me. And after the event, I welcome input from those in the room and those online as this project moves forward. And with that, I turn it back over to Jonathan.
Okay, we're gonna make this short and sweet because we know we want to get you out of here as soon as possible. So Jamie, I pass the baton to you.
Thanks, Jonathan. My name is Jamie Danemeyer. I'm a researcher in population health data at GDI Hub, so I can tell you with certainty that in the AT sector, data is at best extremely difficult to navigate. Data sets are sparse, and often where they exist, usually they are not directly comparable or they are inaccessible. Or often they just get buried in the overwhelming and constantly changing world of AT information and just go completely unused. So to address these challenges in a sustainable way, GDI Hub has supported both new and existing data collection efforts and geared resources towards developing new methods to learn from the data that do exist. For example, we contributed to reports seeking to describe the population-level need for AT, including the Global Report on Assistive Technology and the Wheelchair Service Standards Guidelines, both of which are WHO publications that incorporate population-level data collected across dozens of countries. We conducted the country capacity assessment for England, the findings of which are now online, which incorporated qualitative interviews, an impact measure, and the quantitative rapid assistive technology survey, these tools being pulled together for the first time ever for this project. We've also collected data to unlock access to AT markets for entrepreneurs, understanding the barriers and needs that innovators experience, and learning what works to scale and provide innovations. And so these work streams have contributed to a crucial baseline understanding of how we may expand access to AT, and now it remains to measure progress and implementation. But over all of our work, we've also critically reflected on how AT data are generated. Typically, they are only available as an afterthought of more mainstream efforts to collect disability data, which is itself usually quite fragmented. But in population-based data sets, disability is often incompletely or misrepresented, and this becomes especially problematic when even robust data sets are not situated against representative data. And in this sector, we of course have to work with what is available and make the most of it, but at minimum, we need to be active in seeking who is left out of these data sets and be transparent about how this affects the implications of our work. For example, if we were only to rely on health record data to learn about AT need, we will miss individuals who don't regularly, if at all, engage with healthcare institutions, which might include indigenous, rural, and undocumented members of the society, and those who may actually have greater AT needs. Population cohorts that are traditionally used to study healthy aging often do not enroll people who are institutionalized or who have pre-existing support needs, which affects our capacity to understand aging with a disability compared to acquiring disability as a result of aging, and again affects our capacity to meet the needs of people with disabilities aging. Disability registries are also likely to underestimate the prevalence of mild impairments and, of course, require someone to be willing to register as disabled to be included. Or if AT is only studied based on its interaction with education or employment, we will, of course, miss the needs of individuals who can't work or are retired and are only valuing the provision of AT up to a certain extent. So gaps in disability representation data also have significant implications when we consider the growing role that AIs have in making sense of these and other large data sets. There are a lot of opportunities in this space. Some that we're exploring at GDI Hub are applications that can summarize academic writing in plain language and improved ways to find information about AT through sorting algorithms and recommender systems. But given technology amplifies the current conditions of a society, there are also risks that require inclusive ethical consideration. For example, with respect to the searching and sorting information, a web crawler seeking published studies or news about AT will return results that are biased towards high-income countries, reports that already have a lot of traction, or results about larger companies, and in this way exacerbate existing disparities in visibility. The way we design data collection and analyses need to complement the changing conceptual understanding of disability, inclusion, and AT, and keep up with dynamic societal structures like patterns of aging and migration in a population. And to this point, further work at GDI Hub includes refining the representation of AT's individual impact when we look at it in population-level data, like including how it supports people's access to leisure and joy. And we're also applying advanced statistical methods to existing data to make more of what is available. And we hope to currently to fill gaps where appropriate, specifically by looking retrospectively to identify the sociodemographic factors that increase an individual's risk of having unmet need for AT. We're modeling these risks to forecast how need may change in a country as its population ages. We are harmonizing population-based surveys so they can be considered together to establish trends. We are developing and testing these inclusively designed smart systems, and we are collating evidence and resources in our Insights portal to improve data sharing across the sector so that at every new emergency, we are not always starting from ground zero. So there are many avenues to contribute to improving AT data and evidence. And I so sincerely wish this went without saying, but OPDs and people with disabilities must be leading and coordinating the design of new data collection strategies and participating at every level of evidence generation. However, every kind of stakeholder in this sector and in this room can commit to making their existing and future data available and accessible. And we can also invest some of our ingenuity towards learning more from existing data. When we communicate our research, we must situate our findings against those from other data sources, critically reflect on the extent to which the data allows or doesn't allow us to look at intersectionalities within disability, and subsequently be able to describe who is missing from our work. So I will close by saying that data by itself is not evidence. It requires interpretation, and interpretation requires contextual understanding. And this understanding is not achievable with any singular data set used in isolation. It is the collaboration of evidence that will make the difference in expanding access to AT. Thank you.
So I wanted to have my friend Bernard here. We've been trying to be in the same place now for about a year, but fortunately, you get to see him on the screen, so I will...
Hello, my name is Bernard Shira. I am the director and co-founder of GDI Hub's Innovate Now. Innovate Now is Africa's first assistive technology accelerator. It was founded as part of AT 2030, a project that aims to deliver life-changing assistive technology to all that need it. I am delighted to join you at this 16th session of the COSP to share with you our experience on what works in driving innovation for assistive technology in Africa. When we launched Innovate Now, we knew that for us to drive innovation, we needed to build resources that would help our entrepreneurs go further. We also knew that we had to bring persons with disabilities in the innovation process, and we built our Live Labs program. These resources and approach of inclusive innovation have been instrumental in delivering new products to market that work for AT users. I would love to give you an example of Hope Tech Plus, a company that is focused on building solutions for visually impaired persons. When Hope Tech Plus joined Innovate Now, they had just tested the distribution model of low-cost assistive technology in Africa. They embarked on building their own product, the Sixth Sense, a new device that is reimagining how blind persons will navigate their environment today and into the future. This company was able to benefit from our user testing approach at Live Labs, go through our inclusive innovation curriculum, and today we are happy to report not only have they been able to attract investment for their technology, but to launch in 2 new markets in Europe. This include London and Austria. Ladies and gentlemen, for Africa to progress, state parties need to invest more in research and innovation for assistive technology, because these are the new ways that we can unlock the AT value chain across manufacturing, distribution, retail, and even creating awareness about AT to users and the market. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good session.
My friend looks good. I was happy to see his face. Okay, So I am going to pass this off to Fernando whenever he is ready.
Good evening, everyone. It's a true honor to be here. But I have to say, if you're going to speak after these speakers, you better learn some magic tricks or something. It's quite a challenge. But what I really love about this get-together that is being organized by GDI Hub, and their work in general, is the focus on what works, right? It's correct and wise for all of us to look at what doesn't work, and we need to debate and think through the issues. And that's all good and well. But we need to focus on our strengths. We need to acknowledge our victories. We need to build on our success. Otherwise, how are we ever going to reach 240 million children with disabilities around the world? How are we ever going to reach all persons with disabilities around the world? When you talk to somebody who has a disability, who has succeeded in getting an education, in getting a job, in having a family, you're going to notice one thing. They may have a disability and they may have to even talk about or deal with the disability, overcome the disability, certainly, but they're not going to be focused on the disability. They're going to be focused on their dreams, on the life that they're building. They're going to be focused on what works. So I think this is the challenge. What is it that we have found that works? Well, we just heard my colleagues talking about the importance of having OPD participation. Nothing about us without us, right? We've heard the importance of the science, the medical, the government, the legislation, the access to data so that it can become policy eventually. But I think that what it comes down to is that, the big question that always comes to mind is at UNICEF, every other day almost, you hear of a story of somebody, a child that might be 10 years old that had for X number of years had to crawl on the floor because there was no access to a wheelchair for that child. And you think to yourself, how can this be even happening in 2023? And I think the answer is complex, but I would break it down in the following. You have incredible initiatives, such as the ones you see here and the ones that we are mentioning, and they're all a piece of the puzzle. The ultimate challenge is the challenge of coordinating all that wisdom, putting all that in practice, enabling collaboration, while at the same time you also want to have some competition to bring the best in people. And the way we do this in society, when they are working at their best, is that you bring together the scale of government, the efficiency of business, and the wisdom of the nonprofit sector together, OPDs and so forth. Because it's only by building on the strengths of each sector of our society that we are going to accomplish this. And it's not a state that suddenly we're going to reach. We are not going to reach in 2000 and whatever, a state when we'll look around and say, hey, it's done. Unfortunately, no. We will look around and see how much progress that has been accomplished, but every single day, new challenges will come up. We're going to have to deal with artificial intelligence. We're going to have to deal with many other things because it's a very dynamic system, this world we live in. So above all, we will have the right legislation and AT lists and procedures and partnerships. We'll have all of that because that is necessary, but that is not sufficient. We have to ultimately have a process that is ongoing, where each sector of society brings to the table the best that it has to offer. And together, we'll find the answer today, and we'll find the answer tomorrow. Thank you.
It's always sort of reminiscent to hear those words, and I always think of the word possibility. Now I'm going to pass this on to my friend Pascal.
Thank you, Jonathan. I actually don't have that much more to say to what Fernando has pointed out, and I think, in fact, the creation of AT-Scale was perhaps one sort of attempt to try to do what he described in terms of bringing the different stakeholders together. So I lead AT-Scale, the global partnership for assistive technology, and I was also asked to say a few words about what works, what doesn't work, and what's for the, what does the future hold from our perspective. Our perspective is that we're trying to catalyze action to reach 500 million people by 2030 with life-changing assistive technology. That is a big, ambitious goal. And I think one thing to recognize is that AT, assistive technology as a sector, is relatively new compared to other fields in this space. And so when a lot of this work started a few years ago, a lot of the groundwork needed to be done, a lot of the foundational kind of work needed to be done. The Great Report is an example of that, right? There was no such thing before. But there's a lot of other examples. And AT 2030, in partnership with AT-Scale and others, has really been instrumental in doing a lot of that groundwork. One example is the product narratives. These are landscape reviews for key product areas that really helped understand the market, the barriers, and develop strategies for how to overcome them. And today, they still guide a lot of the work that we do through the AT-Scale partnership. Developing robust national country plans is another good example of something that has been done more recently, and that is really showing to work. It's helping, bring stakeholders together at the country level, all the different stakeholders, including organizations of people with disabilities. It's helping prioritize approaches, and it's leading then to implementation of programs that can be scaled up nationally. So those are just a few concrete examples of things that have been done, that work, and that we're using today. We also know, in this context, a lot of things that don't work, right? Charity models do not work for sustainability. In fact, sometimes they may even do more harm than good. We know that, doing too many small-scale pilots, siloed approaches, et cetera, also don't work. Excluding AT users in everything that we do doesn't work. And when we operate outside of national systems and framework, that doesn't work either. So what does the future hold for us? I actually want to be quite optimistic. I think what we've heard tonight from the Minister about UK's commitment is amazing, really, truly is. I mean, this is a space that has been neglected for so long that such kinds of commitments in and of themselves can make a huge difference, and I believe will also help trigger additional commitments from governments, but also other partners. So really, I am quite optimistic that we may be at an inflection point here. Awareness is increasing. I think I've only been around in this space for a little less than 2 years, and I'm already seeing how that is really building. We've got these funding opportunities that are coming up, and I do hope that we'll be able to announce further ones before the end of the year, and that will have a snowball effect. We have amazing partnership opportunities. One is a recent one that we're just embarking on with GDI Hub and Google, working together to demonstrate the massive impact that smartphones can have as assistive technology. We're now having a footprint in about 20 countries with AT-Scale, and that'll also start to deliver results and demonstrate the power of assistive technology. Last but not least, I do want to say that none of the progress being made, none of the efforts that we're doing will be ultimately successful and sustainable if governments themselves don't step up and take up their responsibilities, increase their domestic budgets, make sure that social protection systems are in place, because ultimately that will be what determines sustainability. And if they do play that role and they take leadership, partners will follow. We will rally around them. Yeah, I'll stop there. Really looking forward to the collaboration and moving on this agenda. Thank you.
Mark, you ready to bring it home?
Thanks, Jonathan. Good evening, everyone. We are coming to the finish line, so just bear with us for a few more minutes of what I found a very interesting discussion. So I'm really happy to be here. I am the CEO of the World Blind Union, but on this occasion, I'm actually stepping in for a board member of the International Disability Alliance who was unable to be here. So I'll mostly be providing a perspective from IDA. As a starting point, our position is that assistive technology, like accessibility, is a prerequisite for meaningful participation and inclusion of persons with disabilities in public and private life. And so it's not surprising that the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities has paid a lot of attention to the ability of persons with disabilities to access assistive technologies. So for example, Article 4 of the Convention defines the responsibilities of states parties to undertake or promote research, development, and availability of mobility aids, devices, and assistive technologies. And in addition, Article 20 enshrines the responsibilities of states parties to facilitate access of persons with disabilities to assistive technologies, as well as ensure affordability, availability at an affordable cost, and lastly, encourage producers to consider all aspects of mobility of persons with disabilities. And then finally, regarding the CRPD, General Comment 2 on accessibility and General Comment 4 on inclusive education specifically include clauses on assistive technology. So in light of this clear prioritization of assistive technology within the CRPD, now let's look at the situation of the ability of persons with disabilities to access assistive technology. And I'm not going to surprise anyone in this room who's been paying attention by letting you know it's not great. We, according to the Global Report on Assistive Technology that was referenced earlier, published by World Health Organization and UNICEF, nearly 1 billion people are denied access to assistive technologies, particularly those who live in low and middle income countries where access rates to those life-changing technologies, as the minister said, can be as low as 3%. And I think it's important to hear that number several times to really let that sink in. Now, we don't have great data, which we've also talked a bit about, concerning the ability of underrepresented groups to access assistive technology, but it does appear that the situation of access to assistive technology is most concerning for persons with intellectual, cognitive or developmental disabilities, persons with psychosocial disabilities, deaf-blind persons, and those who are deaf or hard of hearing. The world, and the way we have a sense of this is that the World Health Organization's priority assistive products list reflects a lack of assistive products that are designed at improving the lives of those from underrepresented groups of persons with disabilities. And that's one reason why an event like this is so important. It really gives us an opportunity to draw the world's attention to the need to emphasize access to assistive technology, particularly for those who are from underrepresented groups. I want to talk a little bit about the partnership between IDA and GDI Hub, because this is an important part and successful partnership. So IDA has been working with GDI Hub on a project called Positioning OPDs, or Organizations of Persons with Disabilities, as equal partners on assistive technology. And the goal with this project is to strengthen the role of persons with disabilities and their representative organizations, which Anna so eloquently talked about. and this is regarding the use of and the access to assistive technology in different parts of the world. And the way this project does this is by reinforcing technical capacity and contributing to the production of research and knowledge, which we so desperately need on this topic. So for example, under this project between IDA and GDI Hub, a large online survey is being designed to learn the experience of current and potential assistive technology users. And in addition, IDA is hiring 5 AT fellows, we heard a little bit about this earlier, from 4 different regions across the world, so namely Asia, Africa, Middle East and North Africa, and Latin America. And the idea is that these fellows will support implementation of projects, they'll provide evidence-based technical support, and they'll advocate for greater access of persons with disabilities to assistive technologies in their respective countries. The fellows will be part of IDA's community of practice, and they'll play a critical role in the survey that I just mentioned, as well as future research on assistive technologies. And finally, to conclude my remarks, I'd just like to offer a few recommendations to the global leaders and state actors across the world. Number one, to enhance international cooperation to ensure all persons with disabilities have access to assistive technologies. One example that we heard of earlier around import and export taxes. So you might do this by adopting policy initiatives to ensure availability, affordability, accessibility, acceptability, and of course, quality of assistive technologies, particularly for women and children with disabilities and persons from underrepresented groups. A second recommendation is to increase funding for the innovation of assistive technologies, and we were very fortunate to hear from the Minister this evening about an increase in funding from the UK government. And the idea is to increase this funding, particularly for those with intellectual disabilities, persons with developmental or cognitive disabilities, psychosocial disabilities, deafblind, and those who are deaf or hard of hearing, the underrepresented groups we talked about earlier. And lastly, to ensure meaningful engagement of organizations of persons with disabilities in the policies and the programs around assistive technologies. As was described earlier, this is crucial for the successful implementation of such programs. So if we really want to have any hope of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to address the major gaps in the accessibility or availability of assistive technologies for those with disabilities. And I'm really glad to have been invited to share a few reflections from the perspective of the International Disability Alliance on this very important topic. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen.
Vicky, do you want to sort of say anything?
So before we come to Jonathan to close, I'll just thank the speakers for speaking today. It's been quite a moment listening to everyone. I think people spoke for themselves, but an overwhelming amount of insight, intelligence, and brilliance in terms of people coming together on this agenda now. I also wanted to just take a moment to thank Kylie and the team here for co-hosting the session with us today, and of course UK Aid, the British taxpayer, and the UK government for making that strong commitment. Over the next period of time, you'll see us redoubling our efforts in a really exciting new investment in assistive technology growth, partnering with the private sector to match, we hope, more than match that investment in a way that will really bring real access to assistive technology for the people that need it around the world. Thank you very much, Jonathan, and thank you very much, everyone.
I want to thank all of you who stayed here and whoever is online. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, pandering. I'm going to go watch a Yankee game. So, good night, and thank you very much. I appreciate it.